Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Mary if you're new here, and today I wanted to talk about all the books that I read in July. So I've got most of them here. We definitely read a lot more physical books than we did ebooks this month, and so we can just get right into it. Got the microphone out today because it suddenly started pouring outside and it's very loud, so hopefully there'll be less background noise. First, I'll just go over quickly some stats for July. I read 9 books total in July. I read 2 of them as ebooks, 7 of them as physical books, and one of the physical books I read tandemly with the audiobook. And so we'll just get into it. The first book that I read in July was Bad Girl Reputation by Elle Kennedy, and I gave this book 3 stars. I'm noticing with Elle Kennedy books that I typically give her books around 3 to 3.5 stars, which, I mean, is not horrible, but it's not like she is a favorite author, which sucks because I know so many people like her. But I've only read the first book in the Off-Campus series, and I know that's like a favorite series of hers. So I think I need to continue it, and hopefully then we will find a 4 or 5 star from Elle Kennedy. But Bad Girl Reputation is the second book in the Avalon Bay series. I've read the first and the third, and then I went back to read the second book. And I have to say, I think it might be my least favorite from the series. So this book is about Jen, or Genevieve, and Evan. They have a lot of history together, and they dated for a long time, and then Jen basically broke it off, moved away for a year, and now she's back in town. And they just keep bumping into each other and kind of rekindles their relationship, I guess you could say. I felt with this book there was a lot of telling, not showing within their relationship, which I am not a fan of. And the timeline was very weird. You would find like weeks would go by within the story and you would miss the progress they would make together within those weeks. So it was kind of jumping around. It felt a little disconnected in that you weren't really apart or viewing their relationship the best that you could. Overall, it wasn't a horrible book, it just wasn't my favorite. Next, we're going to go into all the books that I read for Summerween. I have a Summerween reading vlog, so I'm going to try keeping these a little bit short, and I'll link the Summerween reading vlog for you guys to watch. The first book that I read was Yellowface by R.F. Kuang. This is actually my first R.F. Kuang, and I would say definitely not my last, especially because I own 2 of her other books, but with all that to say, I give this a 4 stars, and it might even be a 3.5 stars. I'm not completely sure yet. I have a lot of mixed feelings about this book. Like, I enjoyed the writing, and I think the story and the premise was fascinating, and there was a lot of discussions about the publishing industry that you don't really get to see often, but it also felt like this book didn't know what genre it belonged to. Like, the second half was more like a thriller, and then the first half was more like a literary fiction, so it was a little weird to know what kind of story you were getting. June was also a very insufferable character and had no redeeming arcs, and by the end I was like, I still don't like her. I didn't like her in the beginning, and I still don't like her at the end. The ending, though, I did enjoy. It was very ambiguous, but I think that was the way to go with this story. And then I also noted in my vlog, but I will say it again, I did not like the references to Twitter, Goodreads, and all of that stuff. I think it will not age well, and it won't be relatable within like the next 5 years. And so this is a great book to read now, but I wouldn't really suggest it probably within 5 to 10 years because it just won't be as relatable anymore. The next book I read for Summerween was The Troop by Nick Cutter, and I regret reading this. I gave this book a 2 stars. Probably would even give it a 1. I really didn't like anything about this book. The only thing that was good about it was the writing. It was very well done, but it was just, there was too much body gore, too much animal cruelty, and like child torture in this book. Nothing about it I enjoyed. I honestly would have DNF'd this book if I didn't pay full price for it. I'm not happy I paid full price for it, but it is what it is. Yeah, I don't think I'll be reading anything by Nick Cutter in the future. Just wasn't the type of horror that I'm into. The next book I read for Summerween was Dissolving Classroom by Junji Ito. This was my first Junji Ito manga, and I enjoyed it. I gave this a 3 stars. The only thing was that by the second story, it was getting repetitive, and then it kept being repetitive for the rest of the book. So by the end, I was a little bored with the stories, but art was interesting to say the least. Again, kind of horror that I'm not 100% into, but I could appreciate the art for what it was. And I did have some notable favorites of these stories. I would say my favorites were Dissolving Beauty, Chizumi in Love, and Interview with the Devil. Those three were really good. But yeah, overall, pretty good, just a little bit repetitive, and I will definitely pick up more books by Junji in the future. The next book I started during Summerween, but I did finish it after Summerween, and that was The People in the Trees by Hanya Yangihara. So this is Hanya's debut novel, but I read it after I read A Little Life. I read A Little Life last year, gave that book 5 stars. I'm not even going to go into A Little Life, but I gave The People in the Trees, I think, 3 stars. I'm still debating. I'm not completely sure. This book is, again, with A Little Life, like, it really sticks with you for a long time. You can definitely tell it's her debut novel. I would say the writing is not as good in this book, and you can see a lot of improvement in A Little Life. I haven't read her 3rd book, but I do want to read it eventually. But this one, man, Hanya knows how to write books that just torture you, and it definitely was a tough book to read. There were parts of it, though, that were quite boring and dragged on, and I kind of want to skip around, but overall, it was an interesting read. I hated Norton, and I still hate him by the end of it. Like, there was nothing redeeming again. Another character that had no redemption arcs, but there's nothing redeeming about him. And by the end of it, I just hated him more than I did in the beginning. And honestly, the last section of this book, I don't know why it was needed. Like, I think we all knew that was going to happen, and I didn't need a play-by-play of it. It was also a great example of how humans can really destroy Mother Nature and cultures and people. A great representation of the not-so-great people that exist within us. I still don't know what to rate it. I'm thinking 3 stars. It could bump up to 3.5 to 4, but definitely not a 5-star read. I would recommend it, though, if you did enjoy A Little Life. I think you would enjoy this book. It's a less torturous to read, but still makes you think. Definitely makes you think. So after all of these books for Summerween, I was like, I need romance in my life, so got a few romances back to back after this. The next book I read was Love Theoretically by Elle Hazelwood. I only read The Love Hypothesis by Elle Hazelwood, and then after I found out, or people were saying, that her books are very, very repetitive, so I didn't really pick anything up. But then when this one came out, everyone was saying this is like her best book yet, so I had to pick it up myself and see. I don't agree with that statement, but I would say it is a very good book. So I ended up giving this 4 stars. The beginning of this book is so science heavy. I literally felt like I got a physics degree after reading this book, but after all the science heavy stuff, and once the romance started to kick in, I enjoyed it a lot more. The beginning just dragged on a little bit. It was still interesting. It just, like, I was reading this before bed and fell asleep a lot faster than I usually do reading the beginning. So once you get to know Elsie and Jack a little bit more, you see the progress of their relationship. I think it was just so fun the way that everything unfolded. I really enjoyed Elsie's character development by the end of the story. Also really enjoyed Jack. I think his love for Elsie was a little bit insta-lovey, but I could look past it. The thing that was so upsetting about this book was the ending. I felt like it was so lackluster. The epilogue was not needed at all. It had added no value to the story. And I don't want to give any spoilers away, but yeah, I just didn't like the ending. That's all I have to say. Next book I read was By the Book by Jasmine Guillory. So this is the second book in the A Meant to Be series, which is all surrounded around Disney princess, I wouldn't say retellings, but they were all inspired by different Disney princesses, and this one is for Beauty and the Beast. So this book was so cozy, it gave a lot of homey feels. It is a closed-door romance, and definitely like almost no spice at all. If you do not like books about books, you will not like this book because it is about basically two writers, well, an editor and a writer, but the editor, Isabel or Izzy, is also a writer, and the book centers around writing and their relationship together within the publishing industry, and also their books separate. You see a lot of development through each of the characters and their relationship together based on all of their writing. So I enjoyed it. I think books about books is interesting and fascinating to me. Some parts were a bit slow in this book, but overall I did enjoy it. It was just a nice, comfy, cozy read. It's not really a favorite read. I think it is a little bit of a forgettable read, but I did enjoy it more than the first book, if the shoe fits. And so, yeah, and I really enjoyed this cover. I think it's a beautiful book. And if I didn't say, I gave this 3.5 stars. The next book hurts a bit, but I read Ricochet by Krista Ritchie, which is another like author duo. This is the second book in the Addicted series, and I think I'm giving this a 2.5 stars. Honestly, I really didn't like much of this book. I know this series is all about like addictions, Lily and Lauren's or Lo's addictions, and how they kind of feed off each other and make it worse for each other, but then you're also reading them to like get over it together and be together. But it was just a little addiction heavy. I didn't really like this book until they were reunited, and then it's kind of sparked up and got a bit more interesting. The thing is, like, so many people love this series, and I'm just trying to figure out why. Maybe the books get better as the series go along, but like at this point I don't really want to pick up the next book. So let me know if you have read the Addicted series, if it gets better after book 2. The thing is though, I really enjoyed the side characters a lot more than I did enjoy Lily and Lo. I just wanted to know more about Reich, more about Daisy, Connor, Rose. I think they were more fascinating, and I think the other books do explore their relationships, so if they do, I will continue the series. But yeah, a bit disappointing, but we'll see. Let me know if I should continue the series or not. Alright, then the last book I read was The Brothers Karamazov by Fyodor Dostoevsky, and I changed my rating. So I uploaded my reading vlog. Technically, at this point, I uploaded it yesterday, but I'm batch filming because I am getting my wisdom teeth out on Wednesday, which is August 2nd, and so I'm going to be out of commission for a bit. But I said in my reading vlog for this book, I'm thinking of giving it a 4 to 4.5 stars, but the more I think about it, the more it is a 5-star read for me, so I am officially giving this 5 stars. I won't go too into depth about this book. I'm putting it down, it's heavy. Thoroughly enjoyed it. I think it was a great exploration about humanity, about family, about morality, God, and the meaning of life. It just explores all these really dense topics in a really great way, and definitely a book that stays with you and makes you think after you finish it for a while. I haven't stopped thinking about this book for the past like week. So definitely a great book, a hefty book. I would read it slowly, and if you are a part of the Hardcore Literature Book Club, Ben's podcast episodes about this book, they are fantastic, and they really help you explore and understand parts of this book more than you would if you just read it alone. Lastly, I want to talk about the book that I want to finish today because I'm recording this on July 31st, and that is Orlando by Virginia Woolf. So hopefully I get to finish this today. I'm about 60 pages in, really enjoying it so far. This is my first Virginia Woolf book, and her writing is superb. Honestly, most of my annotations are just parts of her writing that speak to me, and that is so beautifully written and very flowery and very like lyrical. I'm enjoying the story of Orlando so far. I'm at the point where he is still a man, so we will see where the story goes from here. I'm predicting it's going to be a 3.5 to 4-star read for me, but honestly that can totally change by the end of the book since I have like a good chunk of it left. So we'll see. I'm hoping to finish this tonight because technically I have to, because this is one of the books that was chosen by my friends to read in July. And I said in that video, if I do not finish this book or any of these books, then I have to get rid of them. And I've read all of them. They picked Orlando by the book, The People in the Trees, and Yellowface. So let me know what you guys read in July and what you are reading in August. I uploaded last week my August TBR, so give that a watch, and hopefully we'll see by the end of August if I read all of those books. Fingers crossed. It was a good selection, but I am a mood reader, so we never know what books we're going to read when you are a mood reader. It is quite impossible to stick to a TBR. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you guys in my next video. Happy reading!